I want to get some information on this watch just real quick from the National Weather Service chat out of Shreveport. And on top of the tornado threat that we have, we're talking hail of 2.5 inches in diameter. This is a very strong storm moving through. I'm going to put the reflectivity back up so you can see where the storm is, since rotation is hard to see. A tornado warning for northern Franklin, northern Titus, and southern Red River counties, as we have been discussing. If you're in Bogota, I want you in your tornado safe space immediately. We're looking at tennis ball sized hail, and weather spotters confirmed a tornado. So this storm has, according to weather spotters, been confirmed on the ground, at least at one point. I don't necessarily know if that is the case right now. Nothing on the debris tracker is jumping out at me that this is on the ground at this time, but this is a tornado-warned storm and a very powerful one at that, producing tennis ball-sized hail. And we can see the rotation a little bit more clearly right here, just to the south of Bogota. So if you are in Bogota or along US 271, I want you in your tornado-safe spaces right now. We have a storm that has been observed as producing a tornado, and we can see here on the debris tracker, again, nothing really jumping out at me, but there are a lot of bright colors in general. This tells me that there's a lot of ice in the atmosphere that's being picked up and blocking the radar beam. That's what happens with these bright colors getting jutted out to the top left of your screen. This is the hail core that we've been tracking, and when we start getting the oranges popping up, you can see here, and this is over time, and this is a very large hail core. When we start getting the reds and the oranges and eventually possibly the yellows, that is very, very, very large hail and is extremely dangerous to be dealing with. That will cause damage to roofs, to cars. We are starting to see it's a weak one, but we're starting to see that traditional hook echo forming with this storm. Again, this is a very powerful supercell moving into Red River County right now. Again, if you're in Bogota, I want you in your tornado safe space right now. Technically, the rotation is to the south of Bogota, but you are dealing with some very strong, very large hail at this time. I'd be surprised if nothing hail-wise was falling, especially when we're dealing with, again, the orange colors, which this is larger hail than we dealt with yesterday with that storm that, again, moved through Red River County. So I want everyone in this vicinity in their safe space. That is an interior room, away from exterior walls and windows, away from glass if you can manage it. Put your pets in their carriers or their crates, especially if they're small pets. That could cause significant issues if bad things were to happen to your living establishment and they could panic and run. We don't want that to happen. That could cause even more heartache in the moment. So let's take a look here at reflectivity once again. Very heavy rain on top of large hail potential, and if there is something on the ground with this, you will not be able to see it. It will be rain wrapped, and this will be a very dangerous situation if something was on the ground. I want to go back to the debris tracker, and again, thankfully, nothing at this time is jumping out at me as something lofting debris up into the air. But again, we're seeing these odd colors popping up. That suggests to me that there's a lot of ice, a lot of structure blocking the radar beam and causing those weird colors. Let's take a look at the shear tracker, and it's not as consistent as you can see here from the county prior into Red River County, but there is a noted rotation, and again, this storm was observed by a weather spotter to having having had a tornado touchdown, but right now wind shear currently not picking up on any significant rotation. Let's take a look at wind velocity, and we still see the rotation to the south of Bogota. The red moving away from the radar site, green moving towards. There's not a lot of green there, but that is telling me there's rotation in this storm. It is moving in an easterly direction. I want to get the information on that. Mesh hail estimated reporting around 3.3 inches. It could be overestimating, according to the National Weather Service, but even at 2.5 inches, that is very large hail that will cause damage to your roof, to trees, to cars, and what have you. If you were about to head home from work, don't. Stay at your workplace and get into those tornado safe spaces as well. Again, this is the rotation. This is an updated scan. Let's take a look at the radar reflectivity. And again, we are seeing somewhat of a hook echo forming. It's a rather broad one, so this isn't a situation where there's a guaranteed tornado on the ground, but we are seeing that rotation. We are seeing that very heavy rain now moving to the east of Bogota, right over US 271. If you have friends and family that are in US 271 from Talco to Bogota in Red River County, I want you to let them know, if they haven't already, to get into their tornado safe spaces. Even outside of a tornado threat, we have a large hail threat in that portion of the Arklatex right now. This storm, very powerful, producing very heavy rain. I want to take a look at the wind velocity again, and we're continuing to see rotation with this storm. I'm going to be going back and forth between wind velocity, talking with you, and the National Weather Service chat. This was observed to be on the ground at one point. Again, nothing has jumped out at me to suggest that until maybe now. This is concerning. Now, it's not very structured. It's not very obvious, but this is a brightness that's not showing up anywhere else. These colors here, and I know we're splitting hairs here when it comes to pixels on a map, but pixels on a map could mean the difference between something on the ground and something not on the ground. So we're going to take a look at the rotation again. This is storm relative velocity. Again, the red moving away from the radar site here in Shreveport, the green moving towards. This is the rotation just to the south and east of Bogota along US 271. I want to get a speed on this storm real quick. I went into immediate tornado coverage. It is moving east at 45 miles per hour. Again, the potential for a tornado being on the ground and tennis ball sized hail. Let's put a tracker on this because this is a potential dangerous situation for areas east of this storm, and unfortunately, and this is something we ran into yesterday, is a very rural area. Not a lot of places are going to pop up on the map. However, Johntown, it is practically on top of you at this point. If you're in that area, get to your tornado safe space immediately. Box Elder is how I'm going to pronounce that today. You are also in the path of this storm. Now, you're a good 30 minutes away right now. The storm is moving east at 45 miles per hour, but I want you to be aware of it because it is on the way, and you are in the tornado warning polygon, just barely. Here is that polygon so you can get a bearing of the geography. Again, the rotation just to the south and east of Bogota right now, to the north and west of Talco along US 271 between Talco and Bogota, again moving easterly at a 45 miles per hour. This warning goes until 5:45. This is another slow moving storm, just like we saw yesterday in Red River County. So taking a look at radar reflectivity again, we're continuing to see a very broad hooking in this storm. So you can kind of see how the rotation would be, and we have very heavy rain associated with the rotation. So that can create a very dangerous situation where you would not be able to see anything on the ground if it was. And the rotation on the wind velocity now is getting hit with some radar errors. That's what this purple line is, and that kind of juts out up to just south of Deport there. So the rotation's getting a little more difficult to see, which is a little disappointing in the moment. But we can see here that there is something causing this brightness in the debris tracker. And we've been tracking this from just south of Bogota to here, so we're continuing to track this rotation and the potential for a tornado on the ground. Again, it was observed on the ground when this warning was sent out. So we're continuing to look at that, and we're going to follow this storm since it was observed at one point. We're taking a look at reflectivity here again. The storm moving east at 45 miles per hour. These purples are indicative of very, very heavy rain, and most likely we're dealing with some large hail as well. So if you are in this area again and you're watching this, I want you in your tornado safe space. Even if you're just right here, this is where the rotation is over, on top of the fact that very large hail is being at least observed by radar, if not being observed in the moment. And I'm not going to ask you to take pictures right now. This is too risky of a situation. I'm going to go off the radar, and we're just going to go off that. We don't need to see pictures. Just know that this storm has been able to produce hail up to 2.5 inches, and that has been observed. Radar indicated up to maybe 3 inches. However, sometimes that does overestimate the hail size, and 3 inches is very, very large hail. I think that's getting up to softball size without knowing exactly the diameter of a softball. But we are dealing with a potentially pretty dangerous situation here, especially if something is on the ground. Now, here's the latest radar scan. We're not looking at the development of a great hook echo anymore. Earlier it was. I could back that up just a little bit on our system, where it was trying to create that typical signature on radar where it was trying to hook out, but right now we're not seeing that as much, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not rotation. And if that purple mess wasn't in the way, we'd be able to see the rotation a little bit better. I believe it's about right here, again, moving easterly at 45 miles per hour. I want to take a look at the shear track, and now the shear track is putting the rotation to the north and east of Talco, north of Farm Road 71 West here, just in the very southern portion of Red River County. So we still have rotation that is still being observed by radar, but that is outside of what I believe the rotation is on the storm relative wind velocity. Let's check out another velocity product just to see if we can see anything, and we really can't just due to the distance, again, away from the radar site that we're dealing with. It's pretty far away. You want the storms to happen a little closer to radar so we can get good looks at it, but this is what we're dealing with right now. It's picking up on very heavy rain, the potential for large hail. Again, this tornado warning goes until 5:45 this afternoon. Here is the polygon again. If you are in this area, and this is why it's very important to know where you are on a map. If you're in this polygon, I want you in your tornado safe space, because on top of the fact that this storm has produced an observed tornado on the ground, at least at one point, it is producing very large hail, up to tennis ball, possibly baseball sized hail. 2.5 inches in diameter has been observed. Radar has indicated possibly up to 3 inches in diameter. However, that could be overestimating it. But when we see the colors that were popping up, which still, that pink color is concerning. We were seeing a yellow earlier. if we could just, we can't back that up, but we were seeing a yellow or orange up on the scale here. We're still seeing pinks, and that is a red. That would be the hail core. This is still producing a large hail that can cause significant damage to your roof, to trees, to cars, on top of the fact that this storm has at least at one point produced a tornado that touched the ground. Now, the debris tracker really hasn't updated all that much, not in a way that would suggest that something's on the ground right now. So that is at least a good thing in this moment. Still, taking a look at a storm relative velocity, it looks like a lot of the rotation has kind of broadened out, but again, we're dealing with a storm that's very far away from the radar site, so if the rotation is still there, I believe it's probably right here, but we're dealing with a lot of noise from the radar at this time, so I need to get another radar scan in or two. So we can just keep an eye on that. But here is the hail track, and this is what I was talking about when we were dealing with these orange colors. So on top of the tornado threat that this storm is producing, it's also producing very large hail, which can be just as dangerous. Again, if you're in that tornado warning polygon, which I'll pull up right here, I want you in your tornado safe space regardless of if you think the rotation's over you because of the hail threat that this storm has produced. I want you away from external walls and windows in an interior room. If you have a basement, that's great. If you're in a mobile home, you need to find a more sturdy structure, and that is very, very important. Put your pets in their carriers or crates, and if you have helmets, throw them on. Anything to add more safety to you, to your family, to your pets, do that. We can replace property. It is hard to replace you. Now, we can see the latest scan still has a lot of that ugly noise in it, but I believe here is where we're looking at that rotation and taking a look at the tornado debris signature. The brightness has moved to over that rotation. Again, I can't necessarily say that this is indicating that debris is being lofted into the air, but something is causing a brightness in the debris tracker, the correlation coefficient. It takes a while for that stuff to process, though. It does continue to look somewhat ominous. If we were really broadly defining a hook echo, this, I suppose, would technically count. Right here is the problem. This is where the hail, this is where the rotation is being observed to the north and east of Talco. In fact, I will zoom out just a little bit so you can actually see some locations to the north of Farm Road 71 and to the north and east of Talco. Now to the east of US 271 right now. This is where the rotation is. Very heavy rain, very large hail possible in this storm. Again, this is a tornado warning for portions of Red River County, Titus, and Morris counties in northeast Texas that goes until 5:45 this afternoon. And though we've been talking about damaging wind, large hail being the main threats, I mentioned earlier, and I'm glad I did during the 4 o'clock, and I've mentioned it on the website, and I mentioned it yesterday, that the tornado threat, though isolated, is not zero. And this is a perfect example of why we still have to take a tornado threat seriously, even if it is a lower end, tornado threat. I want to take a look at the rotation again, and it is kind of plain as day now. It's outside of the noise and glitching. This is the rotation. In the southern of Red River County, this is that rotation. That is called gate-to-gate shear. That is moving away. That is moving toward. This is pretty tight rotation. And If there was something on the ground, I wouldn't be surprised. Debris tracker, correlation coefficient, not really jumping out at me that anything is being lofted into the air, and that is a good thing. If we were seeing large pieces of debris, this would be very bright. It would be possibly white or blue. It would be a circle or some sort of a rounded shape, so it would be very, very obvious. A brightening does suggest to me that something is going on, but not necessarily guarantee that anything is on the ground. They are continuing this tornado warning, and hail of 1 inch was observed to the west, 1 mile to the west-northwest of Bogota in Red River County. Let's take a look at the new warning. I'm sure they have shaved off Bogota and a good chunk of US 271. So if you're in Bogota, you are in the clear now. So you can come out of your tornado safe spaces at this time. This warning continues until 5:45, and they haven't extended it downstream at all. But if you are in this red polygon, I want to just update everyone. If you're in this red polygon, you need to go into your tornado safe space right now. That is an interior room away from exterior walls and windows. I want you to put your pets in their crates or carriers and take them into whatever that room is with you. And if you have helmets, whatever kind of helmet it is, bicycle, hockey, baseball, football, put it on your head. It is a good added protection if anything ends up happening, because not only do we have the tornado threat, we have a large hail threat. And though we're not dealing with the orange color popping up on the scale, we still have the pinks, we still have the purples, and that is indicative of some large hail as well. This is the type of hail that we were seeing yesterday, and I know that it was observed. The National Weather Service did confirm that. I want to take a look at the rotation again, and we still see that rotation right here. That is the rotation we're keeping an eye on, and we just got another scan in from the radar. I want to take a look at reflectivity. Again, this is a very odd-looking storm, but it is a supercell. This is a rotating thunderstorm, and this is the area of concern. This is where the rain is going to be the heaviest. This is where the hail is going to be the largest, and this is where there is the potential for a tornado. This storm has created a tornado that touched the ground. It was observed, so this storm is capable of doing that again. We just got another message in from the National Weather Service. The rotation not as significant on the ongoing warm storm, so they're going to continue to monitor this storm. They may end up canceling this warning if the rotation doesn't tick back up, but we're going to wait a couple of more radar cycles before they make that call, and thus I'll be waiting with them. We still see the rotation, though it is starting to become a bit less ominous over that portion of Red River County. And taking a look at the debris tracker, even the brightness that we were seeing has kind of blended in with the rest of the colors here. So maybe, perhaps, we are starting to see that storm weaken. We have seen the rotation diminish quite considerably, so we'll have to wait and see about that. I want a couple of more radar scans in before I make any calls, especially since this storm has been observed to have produced a tornado. Let's take a look at the hail situation. This is current hail, and it really hasn't updated much from just a few minutes ago. Still dealing with large hail, potentially up to 2.5 inches in diameter. And in Bogota, there was 1 inch hail observed. Someone observed that. I guess they took a picture, sent it to the National Weather Service, that has dropped in Red River County. Taking a look once more at the storm relative velocity, we still see rotation. It's just not as concerning as it once was. So we're going to continue with this storm. I want a couple of more radar scans in, and we're keeping an eye on this storm due to the threat for an observed tornado on top of the large hail threat that we've been dealing with this storm as it moved into Red River County. Real quickly, while we're waiting on more radar scans, a severe thunderstorm watch in place for all of these counties and parishes, pretty much along I-20 and north. You're under a severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock this evening. The main threats are going to be damaging wind and large hail, both of which we have observed with this storm that's moving through Red River County right now, and there is an isolated threat for tornadoes, which we are currently in tornado warning coverage. Let's go back to a live first alert Doppler radar and satellite. Zoom in on this storm, and again, where the area of concern exists is this lowering, and I know that is a poor choice of words, but this lowering of the storm compared to the entire mass. We have this area here, which is where the largest hail has been observed, at least by radar, where the rotation has been observed once by spotters touching the ground, and on radar over the past several minutes, we've seen the rotation here. It appears to be broadening out. I'm waiting for more guidance from the National Weather Service. They're keeping a very close eye on this storm. Again, if you are in this polygon, I want you in your tornado safe space now. This is an updated one. Bogota, you are now out of the tornado warning at this time, but if you're in this area, I want you in your tornado safe space right now. On top of the tornado threat, there is a large hail threat with this storm, damaging wind in general on top of a lot of heavy rain. If there was anything that touched down, especially in this area, you're not going to be able to see it. It's going to be wrapped with very heavy rain and potentially up to 2-inch diameter hail. And this is another radar scan that we just got in. Now moving into the eastern half of Red River County, let's take a look at the rotation. And again, the rotation is present but not as broad. I believe it'd be about right here, and when things get kind of broadened out like this, it gets harder to see, and the radar just updated, so that is much more broad rotation compared to what we have been seeing. So I would be surprised if anything was on the ground with this storm, but it is still warned as a tornado warning, and I'm waiting for more information from the National Weather Service. They're watching this storm, and they are going to be canceling the tornado warning on this storm. So we'll be waiting for that, and with that, we can go back to our regular programming. I've pretty much eaten the entire 5 o'clock half hour, so control room, do what you need to do, and I'm going to be here for the rest of the evening, keeping an eye on these storms, and if needed, we'll break in. Please download the KSLA First Alert Weather app. It's the easiest way for us to alert you to severe weather in your location. I've been First Alert Meteorologist Austin Evans. Have a great rest of your evening, and stay weather aware.